What's up, everybody? Tuesday night, time for On the Ball podcast. Hopefully, you all are having a great night, enjoying all the sports. Got the NBA playoffs, you got NHL playoffs, you got NFL draft this week. It's draft week, so it's just crazy time right now. But you already know we're gonna come on here and have some laughs, get on each other for our takes. We'll get on you all in the chat. You guys will get on us. It's just a fun time all around. So tonight we're gonna look at the NBA playoffs, what's going on there as each series has basically played the first two games at the higher seeds building. Got three games tonight, but we'll talk about that later as well. Then look at the NBA awards because we did talk about Kendrick Perkins' ballot last week, but this week we have like the official finalists, so we'll get into that. At the end, we're going to do our final mock draft. We're going to do a first round mock draft. Each of us will take basically just alternating picks throughout the first round and have some fun with that so that you all in the chat, if your team comes up, if you hate our pick, let us know. If you love it, let us know as well. And Dylan should be joining us shortly. But before we get into the first topic, let me go ahead and introduce you all. We got Jake, got Brett. Jake, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. I love mock drafts. They're super fun. I love this idea of us basically controlling the entire first round and just enjoyed a good weekend of basketball. That first weekend of NBA playoff basketball is some of the best you're going to have all season because there's
Mm-hmm.
basketball for 2 days, pretty much nonstop from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. And you can't ask much more as an NBA fan for something like that. So excited to talk about everything basketball and draft.
All right. And then right below we got Brett, guard of three. You already know, you see the name. Catch him on and one. But Brett, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk some hoops. It's always a good time.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Why not? All right. Well, actually, we'll go with the new layout until Dylan gets in here. So we have the NBA playoff bracket here, and looking at everything that's going down so far, kind of a weird anomaly, maybe. Every home team has won so far. So, first question that we'll have to ask you: do you think that continues tonight? And those of you watching or listening, the games tonight that we do have are Pacers. Hold on, I just had it. Pacers Bucks are tonight. Um, Suns Timberwolves, and then Clippers Mavs. So just starting there, I'll start with you, Jake. Do the home teams continue tonight?
I don't think so. It's kind of weird that there hasn't yet been any upset, even though we've only played, either one or two games in every playoff series. I don't think that holds true. I think especially if you're looking at the all of these games could go the other way. Phoenix, Minnesota is one that's very interesting. Have to worry about like the Pacers and what the Bucks could do. But my main focus right now is between the Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. Uh, Dallas played like garbage. Like we could talk more about that later, but I feel like Dallas just didn't play a very good first game. They almost kind of threw it away. Kawhi Leonard is listed as questionable, which basically means that
Yeah.
he's not going to play. He ain't playing, and I just don't expect Dallas to play poorly. That poorly again. They had was like 8 points in one of their second quarter. I
Second
don't
quarter.
expect that. Yeah, don't expect that to happen again. So at least one of those is going to win. And if I had to make a bet, it would be on Dallas to win on the road.
Now, do you think that Kawhi is out because, he really can't play, or is it just because they won game one? They're going to go ahead and push it a little more and let him sit out game two?
Oh, 100%. I think that's exactly what it is because if you look at the schedule, uh, they're not playing again until Friday. Like that's a nice long break. That's where these first round series, you can get a lot of resting going on between rounds.
Mhm.
And I think if this was a matchup in the Western Conference Finals, and they're playing every other day, Kawhi would be playing game two. I think he would be toughing it out. It's kind of funny to say toughing it out for Kawhi Leonard, but I think he would play. He knows what's at stake and he wants to get to the finals. But they're looking at this situation as, the Clippers were the heavy underdogs despite being the 4 seed. They won in a pretty dominant fashion. They the Mavericks seem to struggle with the size of Zubac, which was kind of surprising for me. And they feel pretty good. They have to look at this situation as this is going to be a 7-game series. This is going to be kind of an ugly, tough fight. You split the series and you give Kawhi another basically a whole week to rest before game 3, where it really matters. And so I think it's, if I had to make a bet or an assumption, it would be that they want to give him more time to rest for a game that's really going to matter on the road.
Okay. I mean, Brett, like, do you think the trend continues tonight with the home teams winning, or do you see a road team winning tonight?
I think it'll continue. I think all the home teams defend home court again. I think the best chance of that happening, honestly, it's tough because the Pacers and Mavs both played poorly in game 1. If I had to take a guess, I'd give the Pacers the best chance to pull off an upset tonight, followed by Dallas. But I think all the home teams are going to defend home court, and we're going to do it again.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of think that's the way it's going so far. And Jake, you did bring up a good point about that Clippers game. The Zubac part was definitely surprising to me. I mean, he was bullying whoever was guarding him, whether it's Gafford, Washington. Like, it didn't matter who they threw onto him. So I'm expecting kind of a little bit more of that tonight. I mean, looking at Phoenix, I feel like they kind of got a rude awakening in game 1. Losing by, it was like 20, 30 points to Minnesota. Or yeah, or is that backwards? No, Minnesota won, right? Yeah. And Jake, you're muted.
Yeah, Minnesota won on that one.
Yeah, for some reason I was like Phoenix won, but yeah, Minnesota winning that one. I feel like that was kind of a surprise to a lot of people because looking at Phoenix, looking at what they kind of did with their roster, basically going all in, supposedly, if you want to call it that, but kind of cornering themselves and having to do well this playoff run. The fact that game 1 went the way that it did, like if you're a Suns fan, or well, actually, we'll pose this as a question. As a Suns fan, how worried should you be based off of how game 1 went?
I'd be very worried. It just showed that the Suns can't afford an off night. They need to be perfect on offense in order to beat the Wolves because their defense just isn't good to make up for it if they're off on offense. We saw that night 1. Devin Booker couldn't shoot that well. Beal and Durant did fine, but D-Book was off. I believe Grayson Allen was off, if I remember correctly. So I'd be really worried because to me, one of my takeaways was if the Suns struggle offensively, their defense will not be able to pick up the slack for them.
Yeah, I'll disagree there. If I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, and I have some of those Suns fans in my life, I would be very worried. Heading into the playoffs, I was very confident that Phoenix would be able to pull off the upset of Minnesota. I thought that Phoenix played Minnesota really well through the regular season. They can kind of score in bunches and probably get either Karl Anthony Towns or Rudy Gobert away from the basket. But like Brett said, this team needs to be hitting on all cylinders on offense if they want to have any chance to win. And Minnesota's a really good defensive team. They have a great rim protector in Rudy Gobert. We know Ant's a fantastic perimeter defender. They play really intense defense, and I think Minnesota. I'll give them credit. They notched up the physicality. They played really well, and to lose game 1 isn't a big deal, but to lose by what was it? Was it 30 points, 25 points like that in a game where you avoid the 7 seed, you avoid the play in, you get some extra rest, and it just turns into a blowout like that when a lot of people had you as kind of the dark horse team to make a good run for it is rough. And it just goes to show the poor roster construction that Phoenix has. They have great scorers, but they don't have any playmakers, don't have a good point guard, and they don't have any rim protection. And that kills the team. And in the playoffs, that can really hurt you when you're playing the same team for 2 weeks and you have chances to expose and work on mismatches like that. I'd be very concerned.
Yeah, and I'll give you Dylan. Welcome in, Dylan.
What's up?
Let you jump in on this question as well because we're just talking about how Phoenix losing game 1 by like about 30 to Minnesota. How worried should Suns fans be? Because as we know, the Suns made a lot of moves in the offseason to make it seem like they need to win now. And just looking at that matchup from game one, how worried would you be as a Suns fan?
I mean, yeah, you always got to be a little bit worried when you look at little game ones like that as well too. I mean, it's a 7 game series. It's not like you have a whole 82 game season to figure out your mismatches and go. This is where you should probably be figured out and have good game plans and stuff, especially against in the playoff against a team that you've played multiple times already. Um, Man, you gotta be worried, especially with the margin of loss. It just depends on how they recover after the second game. It could always just be a situation where they just caught them off guard, wasn't ready, just or had that good game plan for like that first game of the series. So I think we should take how they play with the second game a little bit more in stride. And if it's another blowout, then I think we should be a little bit worried. Or if there's some sort of domination or anything along those lines, I think we should be worried.
I guess I'll give you a chance to get to the first question as well, because home teams have won every game so far. So the first question was, do we see that continuing tonight as we have 3 more game 2s with Bucks Pacers, Clippers Mavs, and Suns Timberwolves?
Man, that's rough. I mean, it's hard to just bet against Luca. It's not just something fun you want to do. It's tough. I mean, I would say it's leaning towards that. Yes. I mean, they've all were pretty dominant in that first game. All of them were pretty dominant in their first set of showings. Man, it's just it'd be weird to see that happen. What would that be? How many games is that?
It would be 16 if
16,
all of them
16
do it.
games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dang, 16-0 at home this so far in the playoffs. That'd be pretty crazy.
Anthony, what's going on, had a question. Is there a chance with luck that the Heat get one game in the series against Boston? I guess I'll start with that one since I am a Celtics fan here.
And the Heat hater.
I am not a Heat hater. I just don't buy into Heat culture. Maybe it's the same thing.
Okay.
Maybe it's not.
My bad.
I thought before the series, I said 6 only because it's the first round. Crazy things happen, a couple of games here or there. I'm leaning towards 5 and possibly sweep after game 1. Because look, the Heat, they don't have Jimmy Butler, they don't have Terry Rozier. Caleb Martin isn't the same Caleb Martin from last year when he was like knocking down every 3 possible. He's really struggling. Hero struggling to get going. So I'm not expecting them to win game 2. And by the time they get down to game 3 and 4, game 3 will probably see Miami's best attempt. And if they lose game 3, it's a sweep. If they win game 3, I think it ends in 5. So I'll give them a chance to get one game. After that, I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. It's one game at best, and I think it more has to do not so much with Miami, but maybe Boston. Boston likes to take a lot of threes, and maybe it's just a night where they take a lot of threes, they don't go in, they're kind of off that way. Maybe Boston takes their foot off the gas a little bit because they're just not. It's hard to be locked in when you feel so dominant, especially if they go up like, let's say 3-0 or 2-0 and it's a real dominant thing. And they've shown moments before where sometimes they can get a little unfocused against lesser opponents, but it's one game max. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is a sweep, but there's no way this series is going to 6. Miami does not look like a great team. Those playing games that they played in were not particularly great. And so I expect it to end in 5 at the most.
All right.
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Jake. If Boston stays locked in, the series might end in 3. He might just throw in the white towel on game 4. But if Boston stays locked in, it's a sweep. But yeah, I don't see this series going past 5. If this hits a game 6, that would be an absolute miracle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to really say too much that's going to be anything different. Yeah, I mean, you said it best, dude. Game 3 is probably their best chance to steal something, and if they get Game 3, then yeah, they'll have it in 5. It'd be weird to see them get 6. But yeah, this Game 3 is crucial. If they get it, it's going to be a sweep. Just don't even worry about it.
Okay. All right. So then, I'll look at the Caleb Martin play because I feel like a lot of people have been talking about that today. I've heard it on, NBA radio and everything. There's some people who think it was borderline, some think it crossed the line, some think nothing to see here. It was just coincidence of them running in and Tatum being in the position he was in. So, looking at that play, do you think it was dirty? Do you think it was unfortunate? Like, how did you view the Caleb Martin play? And those of you who may not know the play, it was late in the game. Tatum was going for a rebound. Martin hit him up in the air. He landed on his back, head snapped back a little bit. He did bounce straight up, go to the free throw line, knock down his free throws. Caleb Martin and Jaylen Brown got into it a little bit. I think Porzingis was there because Porzingis looks like he's ready to fight anytime. That's just kind of the way he is. But yeah, did you think it was a dirty play?
I mean, it really looked it in real time because he hit him late. So the follow up where he checked on him, make sure he's all right, kind of gave me some hope that it wasn't. And I think we'll know if Miami's playing dirty more so in these follow up games. If we see another dirty hit or two happen in Game 2, then we might, I think then we can start assuming that all right, they're playing a little dirty. But for right now, I think I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt just because he did, make sure to check on him after, make sure he was all right. So I'm willing to give him benefit of the doubt, but if something happens in Game 2, that goes away.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looked dirty. I mean, it's cool that you checked on him, but it's like you just let his emotions get a little above him. That's all. And then afterwards, he realized he's like, "Damn, probably shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't." It's just, it's the game type situation. Like Bet said, went and checked on him. That was nice, everything like that. But yeah, emotions run wild. Sometimes it just happens. We've seen way worse happen in this sport. So yeah, glad everyone's okay though. That's all you can hope for. And I think the concept of how he landed as well too, like, kind of made him realize, oh man, that was probably uncalled for.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just say like, I didn't like the play. Like it definitely appeared dirty. It looked bad in real time. I don't think he was trying to hurt him. I think it was more of a frustration of, he played really well against Boston and looked great. And ever since that Boston series, he hasn't been playing very great. Comparatively, they're getting beat pretty bad. They know they're not going to be able to win this series, and they just let his emotions get ahead of him. Dirty, but not trying to hurt him. But it's definitely going to be a magnifying glass on Caleb Martin for how he plays in probably the next 3 games of the season before their season ends. Because if anything else gets kind of chippy like that, the refs are going to have to kind of step in to make sure he's not trying to hurt anybody. Because that's the only thing I think that's going to stop Boston from advancing to the finals is someone getting hurt off of a cheap play like that. So wasn't a fan, but like some people have said before, we've seen worse, but it doesn't need to happen. We don't need that in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it, real time. Thought it was definitely sketchy, only because like the time and score. It was like, what was the purpose? Like, what was Caleb Martin's purpose? I know some people are saying like Drew Holiday gave him a little push. What's going on, Jory? And all that. So I get that part of it, but it was just like I just didn't like the look of it with the timing of the play, who it was towards the Tatum. And plus, there was some other chippy stuff earlier on. Bam Adebayo set a screen on Derek White that Derek White didn't necessarily like, and Adebayo didn't move a little bit. Adebayo has a little bit of like the KG screen in him because a lot of people say KG never set a legal screen. Adebayo has a little bit of that.
He never did.
I mean, hey, if you can throw a little chicken wing and not get called for it.
Hey,
It's
on the refs.
right?
It's on the refs to call that stuff, man. Come on.
Right, exactly. But yeah, as Jory said, it was just a little shady. for the timing of it. So maybe it was just
Especially
something
given the
like
history too.
right. That's
Yep.
part of it. Like these two teams have had their little run-ins, and maybe it was just something like Spoelstra said, "Look, guys, we're getting punked. Let's show some aggression." And Caleb Martin took it as, "All right, I'm just gonna crash the boards," and that's what happened. And we'll see game 2 for sure because, like I said, Porzingis has an edge to him. Jaylen Brown has an edge to him. Joe Mazzulla has an edge to him, even though he's the coach. So he may start something like I don't know, but it's definitely going to make game 2 interesting. I know the league looked at it; they didn't elevate it to a flagrant foul or anything like that. They kept it as a common foul. So I guess we'll kind of see what goes on from there with those two. But let's see.
I'll say,
What I want to talk. Go
real
ahead.
quick, it was just announced that Kawhi Leonard has been upgraded to a game time decision, so he might be making his debut tonight.
Oh,
All right.
I would just, man, after how game 1 went, I would just sit him another game if he isn't 100%. Run it back, see how you do game 2, and then you get a full healthy Kawhi game 3.
Yep.
But I also
Yeah.
get one to just have that 2-0 lead right away. More cushion.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Kawhi just wants to test it a little bit, play a few minutes just to stay warm, and then maybe go full blown in game 3. I don't know. Because like you said, Jake, there is quite a bit of layoff between 2 and 3. So if he doesn't play tonight, waiting another like 3-4 days, yeah, maybe he just wants to get out there, run a little, get a little cardio in, and feel good for game 3.
go run on a treadmill, man. Like save your energy.
Um,
Save your energy for
Treadmill
Friday.
can't
Come on, Kawhi.
replicate playoff basketball, man. He's got to get
Yeah,
out there,
that's
chase around Luca for a couple of possessions, chase around Kyrie, and then could be like, all right, I'm good to go. All right. Let's see. Okay, Orlando and Cleveland. I feel like I'm kind of surprised with the direction that series has gone in, where I was one of those who thought Orlando could possibly, take down Cleveland. Cleveland has been a little up and down this year. They've had some issues seemingly with like execution later in games and all that, but Orlando just looks like a team that's not ready for this stage. That game the other night, they had a lot of plays where they were like rushing up shots. They had a breakaway with Banchero and Wagner, and might have been the worst fast break I'd seen because Wagner basically dribbled it too much and then like got up in the air and was like, "Oh, let me pass it to you, Banchero." But Banchero wasn't paying attention at that point, and it went out of bounds. And I was just like, "Yeah, that's a team that needs veteran leadership. That's a team that needs probably another year or two to really be ready for this stage." But looking at that series, like, what are your thoughts on what's going on between Orlando and Cleveland?
I definitely. Oh,
go
Agree
ahead,
with you,
Dylan.
Jory.
I was gonna say.
Kind of a long time.
I was definitely going to say it was definitely a series that when we looked at Orlando, it was our stomachs got a lot bigger than, what we expected for them. We expected like this team to be good, especially given the history of the Cavaliers. But when you look at the Cavaliers on paper, Donovan Mitchell is a great basketball player. Darius Garland's a great basketball player. Jared Allen is having one of his better seasons that he's had. Evan Mobley's a great basketball player, and they have a good set amount of pieces here and there on that bench as well to be really well. This team does have that veteran leadership. They've been to the playoffs before. They've had multiple pieces who've been to the playoffs before. Man, just had high hopes for this Orlando team. They played good. It shocked everyone as a 5th seed, but now that it's happening, that this is the direction it went in, it's kind of like, well, yeah, I could have seen that happening. I just, Orlando would have looked fun. Orlando was funny. They were cool. They're new.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Orlando's a cool story. It's great to see, especially for a franchise that has been really struggling to do anything of note since Dwight Howard left, which was, over a decade ago. And we all got kind of caught up in it. They play a very physical brand of basketball, which I think a lot of good fans of NBA really appreciate and want to see be successful. But at the end of the day, they're very young, they're inexperienced, and this is why there's so many people worry about picking these new teams, especially, even on the Western side of the bracket with Oklahoma City. Can they make that first jump when you don't have that experience for playoff basketball? And I just don't think they have the roster for it. Cleveland really kind of built a wall. They kind of did what, the Heat did to Giannis. They built a wall to Banchero and said, all right, dude, like, you're the best scorer, you're the best playmaker. You're like, the Magic just don't have a deep enough roster to kind of help Banchero out and give him more outlets for things to do. And I think Orlando's going to have a really good they're going to be competitive. They're going to play really well. They're going to lose this series, and they're going to have a good offseason because they have a lot of free cap money to get some more offense in. But I was dead wrong on this. I figured Orlando's defense would kind of stifle Donovan Mitchell and turn him into a chucker and kind of muck up the game, because we've seen that when Donovan Mitchell, if you want to make whatever team he's on lose, you get real physical and he can kind of turn into a chucker. But that's hasn't been the case. And but yeah, but again, like, Orlando to be the 5th seed and to look as good as they have is a huge accomplishment. They should be proud of it. It's just, this is how the NBA works. There's growing pains with young teams like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Brett?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It really just feels like not only are the Cavs playing really well, but Orlando is just not playing the brand of basketball we've seen them play all year. All of a sudden, they're chucking up 35, 43s. It hasn't really been their game. They're too loose with the basketball. They're turning it over. They're missing a lot of shots at the rim. They're rushing themselves.
Feels like they're trying to chase the whole time.
Yeah, I think ironically, Jared Allen said it the best when he said the lights are too bright, and this really feels like it's the case with this Magic team right now. The lights are just too bright with them right now. Obviously, they're going back home for Game 3 and 4. I still think they can turn it around, but they got to protect the basketball and get back to playing their style of basketball, and don't let the Cavs take you out of their comfort zone. Don't let them dictate what you do on offense, because when that happens, we've seen it the first 2 games, you're cooked at that point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said earlier, I was kind of rooting for Orlando to be kind of the new kid that's joined the party, going to really show well. Even if they didn't win the series, just look like a team that, I don't know, kind of like the way they've been all regular season, where they were threatening for that 2 seed for a little bit there. But it just seems like, kind of like Jared Allen said, that they're just not ready for this. And as Jory said, here for a good time, not a long time. Let's go Knicks Sixers. And I think it has to come down to one player with this series, Joel Embiid. Pretty sure you all saw the game last night. It's clearly not 100%. And it's gotten to the point where he wasn't jumping for rebounds late in the game because he just doesn't have it with that leg. And like, when you see it, you see the brace underneath. You see like it's wrapped really bulky. So what should Philly do with Joel Embiid? I mean, do you late game situations if the game's close? I heard heard a lot of people saying this, and it was something that I thought as well. When Nick Nurse kind of saw that Embiid was limited on the boards, which we saw Hart and Hartenstein just crashing the boards all night, maybe they should have put in Paul Reed or somebody who at least could compete on the boards. And it's not like shaded at Embiid because he's dealing with the knee injury and he's trying to play through, so you got to give him credit for that. And he still dropped 35 or something. So it's kind of crazy to say that he's so limited while being so productive. But what should Philly kind of do with Embiid going forward, as they are down 2-0 in that series?
Man, play him till the wheels fall off. I mean,
a lot of people are worried long term if you do that with a guy who's already kind of dealt with a lot of lower body injuries.
It's rough because if you shut him down, he's not going to be happy, probably. I mean, You're down 2-0 in a series where, sorry to the 76ers, and we all gave them a ton of credit thinking that they were going to be a team that upsets. This team is just not it, man. they definitely struggle when Joel's not on the floor in so many ways than one. Tyrese Maxey's cool. Tyrese Maxey's great. I love Tyrese Maxey, but man, he needs help when Joel can't play. Joel is going to get hurt. He's been hurt, and we've obviously seen in times of the past when he can't rebound, when he's hurt, he's injured. The team struggles. I mean, man, the Knicks have a great team set up. They have a bench and starting rosters full of guys who just do all the little things correct, who can rebound, pass, just all great basketball, great fundamentals. And that's just really hurting the 76ers right now because they run through Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid's playing at like 70, 80% right now. It's just not good basketball. It's tough because if you keep playing him, you run the risk of him just getting hurt and you not even having him till next season. If you shut him down, you run the risk of getting him upset. What if he wants a trade? And then if you keep playing him, you run the risk of, like I said, him getting hurt. So just touch.
Yeah.
Because what star caliber player is going to want to play limited minutes in a playoff game, especially if you're down 2-0? An MVP caliber player.
Yeah, I mean,
he's gonna be running on adrenaline with that Philly crowd too.
I mean,
go ahead, Brett.
It's like a situation where you sit him, your season's over, try again next year. You play him and get hurt, your season's over, try again next year. So it feels like it's just a lose-lose regardless. I would just keep playing him unless it's something really wrong with him, like if his Achilles just starts tightening up or like something major pops up. Just keep playing him, have him do whatever you can. Even if it's tough, he's going to have to start getting a body on Hartenstein. They got to keep him off the glass. That killed him last night. But yeah, I think you just play him, and as long as nothing serious pops up, just play him until whatever happens. If you get eliminated or he just can't go anymore.
Yeah, this is a no-win situation because Philly is, we talked about, last week how Philly could be a real nightmare of a matchup with a healthy Joel Embiid and what this team could do, because when they are healthy, they're probably the second best team in the East. But he's not 100%. He's definitely limited. He's definitely laboring, and the Knicks have been doing a really good job of attacking that point of weakness and taking advantage of it. But you can't sit him. Like you can't take him out and be like, hey man, there's 3 minutes to go. It's crunch time, or we're gonna pull you out for 3 or 4 possessions just to try and hang on here. He's not gonna like it. It could cause tension within the team. The crowd could get into it. You can't take a star player out like that, and you can't sit him. Like you have to talk to Embiid and say, look, talk to us and be honest. How's your knee feeling? How's the injury going? Is it going to get worse? Like Brett said, if it's going to potentially get worse or lead to another injury, then you have to sit them because the series. I don't think they're going to win this series at all, and if they do, they're not going to go much further. It's just a no-win situation. You play him because the other thing with Embiid is he's very passionate. He cares. He wants to shed this label of being a guy that's always hurt, a guy that can't make it in the playoffs, a guy who by the time he gets to the playoffs just kind of flames out because of injury. He wants to prove everybody wrong. And you can't, when a guy cares that much and is that passionate about it, the worst thing you could do is be like, nah, dude, you're going to sit. Like that's just going to kill his motivation. It could, like was mentioned earlier, he could request a trade to go somewhere else. And that would just be devastating for Philly. So you play him and you hope for the best. And if it looks like he's going to hurt himself or make it worse, then you shut him down. And at that point, you make it injury related for next season.
All right. Yeah. So I feel like we can all agree. I guess one word answer really quickly that with Embiid's current condition, the Knicks are going to win this series. Or do any of you think the Sixers still have a shot at it?
Man, they play good basketball. Joel Embiid's one of those dudes who can keep you in a game. And Tyrese Maxey has been, I'll give him credit, been playing pretty well too. Dropped 30 points the other night. So, I mean, he's obviously trying to do his part as well too. So, I mean, it just depends on how these rest days go for Embiid. It depends on how he's feeling, having a couple nights off, getting to actually travel and take actually a couple of nights off, being able to relax and rest. that might be a big thing for him. Playing a couple days back to back. I imagine that second game is, it's lingering a little bit more. There's a little more tightness. It's going to get sore. You're going to cramp a little bit easier, specific spots. Let's see how the rest goes. A little more recovery, working with the doctors. See how game 3 is, but that game 3 is always crucial. If they get 3-0, it's probably writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still a series. I think even with Joel Embiid 70-80%, that doesn't take him out of the series. I just think that makes the series even. Like, I could see Philly easily going to defend home court. Like, let's be real. If Joel is at 100%, 76ers are just up 2-0 right now, and there's really not much the Knicks can do about that.
Mm-hmm.
But 70-80, now the rosters are pretty even at this point. The coaching's even. So I could absolutely see this still being a series and the Sixers defending home court.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I think the Knicks are going to win this series. I think there's a chance that Philadelphia can do it. They almost, stole game 2. I don't know if you want to talk about the, Joel Embiid's talk about the officiating on that last little bit there with that comeback and how, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about it, but they absolutely can win the series. And I do think this series goes at least 6 games. This is going to be a very competitive game. It's going to be very ugly. It's been my favorite series to watch, in all honesty, because it's very physical, it's very tough, and it's basketball that I kind of like. They have a chance. I worry more about Joel Embiid's ability to continue to play if he's looking this labored, looking this hurt. Let's say he's at 80% now. By game 5, is he going to be at 75%, 85%, 70? Like, where is he going to be at is my main concern, and that's why I give the Knicks the edge here. But it's not over by any means. No series is over until the home team loses.
Right. Yes. I mean, that's what they say.
Old saying.
That's usually how it goes. I mean, we can talk about the official thing, but did want to touch on one final series because, like I said early on, we got to get into these awards and the mock draft as well. Denver Lakers. Look, the Nuggets have a 2-0 lead. Series is switching to LA, and looking at that series, like it's easy to ask like what went wrong and everything like that. So I'm going to ask this because the Lakers had leads in both games. The first game led going into the half, kind of lost it in the third quarter. This one they had the lead going into the fourth quarter and lost it there. What should the Lakers take away from this optimistically going into game 3?
That you can beat them. I mean, they're not as. I mean, until you beat them, I guess you can't say that. But they're not as indestructible as you thought they were.
Okay.
Like you have things that work. Obviously, you can get leads on them. Lead into the fourth quarter against the number 2 seed reigning NBA champions. That's something pretty good you can hold in the playoffs. And you just got to make it work. Every game's gonna have bad officiating. I mean, every team has strings of games with bad officiating, and the Lakers are the number 1 team to be the most vocal about bad officiating. So, I mean, I take it whatever in stride. It seems like, every week they're complaining to the league office about something that didn't go their way or something that messed them up. And just basketball. But, I mean, what you can take from it is that you can win games, that this is a series that, like, you shouldn't be written off. They're playing good. They're figuring out things here and there. Just don't let the cloud of the officiating just run your whole series now. Just keep playing your brand of basketball because it's working. And the officiating will come its way.
Yep. Yeah, for me, the big takeaway is that the Denver Nuggets are not like the boogeyman. Like, kind of like what Dylan said, they are beatable. You do have a roster that can match up fairly well with them. You can take leads on them. You were very competitive and a very difficult place to play, which is, in Denver. You're going back home. You have plenty of rest, plenty of opportunities to either re-strategize, to recover. And like, you're in this series. This series is not over by any means. It took an amazing stop by Jamal Murray, which was fantastic to end the game and not go into overtime. You're in this game. Stay focused. Stick to your game plan, and you're in this series. This is not the same team that you've lost to. I think they've lost like 9 times in a row to Denver, something ridiculous like that. Despite what that losing streak is, this is a very competitive matchup, and they just have to stay focused.
Right.
I think the takeaway is really simple. If you're the Lakers, you have to play 4 complete quarters to beat Denver. Denver only led twice last game, after the first basket and after the last basket. You can beat them, but you can't. You got to slam the door when you get the opportunity. Because what happened last night? D'Lo was aggressive. AD was rolling. They're up big. All of a sudden, Ham starts messing with rotations. Now D'Lo isn't being as aggressive. AD scores like 2 points in the last 19 minutes, and you didn't slam the door. So now a Jokic-led offense coming back from down 11, that's light work for him. So to me, that's the takeaway. You can win, but you have to play 4 complete quarters, and you do not get to rest until that final buzzer is sounded.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, get Reeves going or Rui, one of them, because like you're gonna need last night D'Lo if you're gonna win this series, and you're gonna need Rui or Austin Reeves to play well if you're gonna get it done. But I do agree with you. They're down 2-0. All you have to do is say Denver did their job, won the first 2 in Denver. Now you go into LA, win your 2 in LA. Now you've kind of just reset the series and turned it into a 3-game set. So we'll definitely see how that goes. And for Denver, obviously, they're looking at it as we can kind of just hang around, let them do their thing early, and slowly walk them down. But like Brett said, if the Lakers put together 4 complete quarters, then Denver would have to attack them a little bit differently. But yeah, so felt like 40 something minutes on the playoffs is probably long enough because we do want to get to these awards because there are some interesting categories and I feel like some that are a little bit maybe competitive. So let's go ahead and get into those. We'll start with the big one. Usually you end it with MVP. We'll start with MVP because maybe this one is, I don't know, the easiest one. We'll see how you guys feel. But the finalists are Luka, SGA, Jokic. So who would you pick as the MVP, or why should it not be Jokic? Who should it be?
Yeah, this keep it simple. This one's Jokic. He impacts the game like few others can. It's shown again this year with Jokic on the court. The Nuggets are plus 11 points better than the rest of the league average. With him off the court, they're negative. They're 9 points worse than league average. It's just such a massive swing when Jokic is out there compared to when he's not. And it's an impact very few have on the game. And most teams, like, they'll have that championship hangover, and you'll see them kind of, take a step back. That didn't happen. That they were literally right in the race for the first seed until that last game, which they were the 2 seed. So I think that this one's pretty easy. It's going to be Jokic again.
I mean, Jake, Dylan, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it to Luca and SGA. SGA was really impressive, having 50 plus games of over 30 points. I mean, that's an impressive feat in itself. And Luca being just crazy. I mean, we use a rebound and assist off of averaging a triple double with his numbers. It's absolutely crazy. Both those guys are really good, but none of them have the impact Jokic has. I mean, just offensively, I mean, you saw in that playoffs yesterday how Brett said it. When you play a Jokic-led offense, you have to play all 4 quarters. Can't have any stops or any breaks. And Jokic just proves that he's the best playmaker in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I'll decide in here. I'll decide with these guys. Like, it's Jokic is going to win it. Jokic should absolutely win it. I do want to give a shout out to Luka. Like, he had a very good second half of the season. The team's defense improved quite a bit. They went on like a 15-2 run. Their last 17 games that mattered. So I do want to give a shout out to Luka, even though they were the 5th seed. He did make a strong, compelling case for his rebounding, his assists, and then obviously his scoring. But the answer is Jokic. It's boring because this will be his 3rd MVP. But you just watch him; he just unlocks everybody. He's unlocked Aaron Gordon. He's unlocked Jamal Murray, and when he's at his best, no one can touch him. No one can come close to what he does, and he's kind of unstoppable. And when a guy's unstoppable, and they're the defending champions, and he has all these stats that back up with it, it goes to him. It just does. We don't need to get caught up in a story. We don't need to get caught up in narrative. We just need to give it to the right person, and for legacy, and it's Jokic.
All right. Yeah, I agree. It's going to be Jokic. Defensive player of the year. So they went with Bam, Rudy, and old Wemby for the finalists. I guess the first question is going to be who wins it between these three? Because you're looking at, Wemby he basically blocks everything near the rim. He affects a lot of shots. He blocks shots on the perimeter. Gobert is a rim protector in probably the simplest form. That's what he is. He affects shots at the rim as well. And we have Bam, who, I mean, I know Jory doesn't want Bam on there. I've kind of agreed because I thought AD was going to be a finalist, but that's neither here nor there. You have Bam, who is a versatile defender. Give him that. He can guard on the perimeter, guard in the post. So who do you have winning this one? I do think this one could be a little up in the air between probably two of them. But who do you have winning this one?
Man, who I think it should be Wemby. I think Wemby should win it regardless of record. He was the best defensive player in basketball. The stats don't lie. I mean, you put Wemby on any one of those teams coached by any one of those players, and it would have been just signed, sealed, delivered. Like we wouldn't even be having any sort of conversation about it. Just because the Spurs weren't particularly a great team and he was a rookie, that we're having in my opinion, a bigger conversation. I thought Wemby just crushed it this year, and it just sucks that he's on a team that won 15 games, so he's not going to get the nod that he probably should for it. He was a monster. But like Wemby said, let Gobert have it this year because after that, it's going to be all it is. So,
I guess I'm about to say you assume Gobert's going to win it, but you would like to see Wemby win it.
Yeah.
Okay. Jake, Brett.
So first of all, I want to say this. I like Bam Adebayo as a player. He's a player that a lot of teams would like. I agree with Jory. Come on. Really? It should, if we're doing three people, Anthony Davis should be the third finalist. He had a fantastic season. The Lakers had a much improved defense, and that really was anchored by Anthony Davis. Like, he does have a case for defensive player of the year because
plus his games played.
Yeah, and he played the games, which we should definitely take into consideration. The on-off numbers were definitely in Anthony Davis's favor, and the Lakers really have been kind of buoyed by a really good defense that's been anchored by him. So, want to give him his flowers more or less. I do think Rudy Gobert is going to win. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say the Minnesota was they were the one seed for most of the season. They were the best defense in the league. For as far as all the stats go, and he was the big reason for it. They know they have Anthony Edwards on the perimeter, but Rudy Gobert, as someone who's watched him play for almost entirety of his career very closely, he covers up so many other mistakes. He's probably going to win it, but I agree with Dylan. Like, I don't want to penalize Victor Wembanyama for his great statistical performance just because his team around him was complete garbage. Like, that Spurs team is garbage as far as like every little thing. Like, he can't get an entry pass on offense to him. That it's a very poorly constructed team. He was fantastic. He would just scare people away. Like, again, someone who's watched Rudy Gobert for so many years as a Jazz fan, I would see players get scared driving to the paint when Rudy was there. But we've seen it to a different level when Victor is in the paint and people just say, nope, I'm 2-on-1, don't care because my shot's going to get blocked. It should go to Victor Wembanyama. But I think a lot of the voters are just going to look at it like a 15-win team. Their defense as a whole statistically was poor. He's a rookie. How can he be defensive player of the year? All of those things. To me, he was the most impactful defensive player, but Rudy's going to win it.
Man, my thing with that is like, regardless of how crappy your team is, a defensive player of the year award, man, like you can't be crappy on defense.
Yep.
You can't be crappy on defense. So that means even if the team was crappy, he was doing his part when he needed to.
I mean, it kind of feels like this is going to be, throw Wemby in it this year. He'll probably come second. And then next year, it'll probably turn into like the Wemby Defensive Player of the Year campaign, and
Under
he'll
the
probably be
run.
back as a finalist. Yeah, he'll be back as a finalist next year,
Oh,
probably.
he's gonna win it like probably like 5 of the next 6 or 7 years. As
Yeah.
long as he stays healthy, as long as he meets those minimum games, it's gonna be similar to how Dwight Howard won like first team All NBA center, defensive player of the year, like because that center position was so weak, he dominated that era. This is gonna be Victor, but on a whole different level. He's gonna win at least probably 4 of these in the next like 6 or 7 years.
So I guess Brett, you agree that Gobert's going to win this one?
Yeah, Rudy's going to win this one. I've been saying that for half the year now, and nothing that's happened really changed my outcome on that one. We know that the voters are going to go with Gobert over Wemby. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that, Rudy doesn't deserve it, because he absolutely did. People overhate on Rudy a lot. I'm a very big Rudy Gobert advocate. But, shout out to Wemby. He's had a phenomenal season, and I think, next couple of years, he's going to be in the running to probably win multiple.
Yeah, I agree. Gobert's going to get it, and Wemby will be definitely in the conversation for the next several years.
Forever.
Yeah, probably. Most improved player. So this one you have Tyrese Maxey from the Sixers. You got Sengun from the Rockets and Kobe White from the Bulls. So how do we see this one shaking out? Who do you? Huh?
They already announced this one.
Oh, they did. Okay,
Yeah.
so I completely missed that one.
Say Tyrese Maxey won, if anybody didn't know.
Well, there we go.
I missed that. That's
Yeah,
who I was.
I missed
I'll
that
just
too.
say
They announced their rewards so weird. They just announced them randomly.
It's weird. I don't like it. They should make it like the NFL where it's a whole big thing and not string us along. But as far as who I would have voted for, since we're kind of just going that, for me, it's Maxey. Like all 3 of these dudes are awesome. This was one that was really close. I like all these guys. I think Kobe White really had a fantastic campaign, and Sengun seems to be kind of what the future for what you want at that position in the NBA. But Maxey went from a guy who was good to a guy who looks like a superstar. That he could be the second best player on a championship team. Like if Joel Embiid is healthy and Maxey's your 2, and you have some good players around him, you're 100% a contender. And it's cool to see him get the award. I'm glad that he won it because he deserved it, and he balled out. So I would have gone with Maxey.
All right. Well, since we already know. Yeah,
honestly, I talked about this on And One, and I like Maxey. I like the jump he made, but I don't think anybody made a bigger jump this year than Kobe White. That's who I would have voted. I knew Maxey was going to win. That was my pick to win. But if I had my own vote, I would have went White. He went from a 9-a-game score to a 20-a-game score. Like, Maxey made a nice jump, but so did Kobe White, and his was massive this year. So congratulations to Tyrese Maxey. But, I honestly think that Kobe White made a bigger jump than Maxey this year.
I would agree with Brett. When it comes to most improved, I'm a big advocate on players who I guess I hate to say statistical because it's very much more so than that. Very much like Jake said, he looked from like a star to a superstar. Like he went from a guy who was possibly maybe like your 3 or your guard on a championship caliber to that 2 guy that you want there with you, which is big in just more than just stats. But statistical wise for most improved, man, that was Kobe White just had an amazing jump. Man, yeah, I expected Maxey to win it as well too, but man, what Kobe White did this season was like crazy. People were writing him off. Man, he was getting the cheaper contracts and stuff too. He didn't even get a max, did he? No. Just to make that because he was a high pick. I mean, it's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, now that Kobe White's kind of had the year that he had, see what he can do going forward because Chicago's going to need him. Because I'm assuming at some point Chicago's going to start making some changes to that roster, and maybe
you sure about that?
Yeah,
that's why I said I assume at some point they're going to mix because DeRozan's not getting any younger. Levine hurt again, Lonzo hurt again.
I mean,
At some point, they
the
got to
smart
change
move.
something there.
The smart move is to rebuild. I don't get why Chicago wants to be in this, be in the 10th seed every single year when you have
Yeah.
the third largest market in the United States. You have a fan base that's always in the top 10 for attendance. So it's not like if you have a bad team, the fans are suddenly going to stop supporting you. Like, just
Mhm.
get on with the rebuild, trade your pieces, and just do the rebuild right. But they got, crappy owner, cheap owner.
Yeah, but them trying to do a right rebuild just like gets them Patrick Williams in a draft. So I think they just got to revamp their scouting department too.
Well, that too.
Right.
You got to make the right picks.
Right. Exactly. Rookie of the year. I mean, they haven't announced this one, have they? But because, like I said, I completely have missed. I mean, I feel like we kind of know where this one's going.
Yeah, we
You
can make
got
the announcement now.
Chet, who's the second-year guy,
Ben Simmons.
trying to get that Blake Griffin, Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year award. You got Brandon Miller, who on a team that's difficult to watch, at least Brandon Miller gives you some excitement there. And then, I mean, we just talked about Wembanyama and with the Defensive Player of the Year award. So I feel like obviously this is going to go to Victor. I mean, does anybody have a case for anybody else?
No.
No.
Okay.
I do want
All
to give
those
a
guys
shout
did
out.
play exceptional, though.
Yeah, for sure. I want to give a shout out to Brandon Miller. It was looking pretty poor in Summer League when he started really bad at the start of the year. And everyone's like, well, look, it's Charlotte. This is what Charlotte does. They have a really bad roster. Nothing really going right for him. And you watch him play, like he's a dude. He's going to be a legitimate player. He had a really good rookie season. And with the right kind of coaching, right kind of roster put around him, he's a guy you're going to want on your team. And completely different what I thought was going to happen coming out of Summer League. But no, Wemby's going to win this. Whoever doesn't vote for Wemby should lose their voting privileges, like for real.
To
I feel like
piggyback
it's
off
probably going
that,
to be one.
on Brandon Miller, I mean, like, yeah, when you saw him at Arizona, he was the type of dude, just like in a right system, he could just take over, and just seeing him do that in college, watching him do that in NCAA tournaments, he is the perfect dude you want on like any roster. You would think he's a guy that can just make the game his own in his own ways, and he had an exceptional season. I will agree, like it looked kind of scary that like the NBA was just like bigger guys, different level, but he did make that jump, and it's good to see.
I mean, Anthony asked if Victor can win both awards. We've already said Gobert's probably going to get Defensive Player of the Year. Wemby's a lock for Rookie of the Year, so he'll get one.
He could win both. It won't happen, but
he could. You're right.
To be fair, Victor Wembanyama is the type of player, though, with all of his like hype and attention. Like, if anyone were to win that award, it could be Victor would be like the only candidate to like steal it in one of these types of situations.
Could agree with that. Sixth man. So you got Malik Monk from the Kings, who missed some time down the stretch. You got Bobby Portis with the Bucks. Naz Reid with the T-Wolves. So how do we see this one going? I mean, I would probably throw my hat on Portis only because when I watch the Bucks, I've said this like a few times now, I feel like Bobby Portis is just a steady contributor. I've made the argument at times like behind Giannis, he's like the second best guy only because you know what you're going to get from him when he comes out on the floor. He's going to give you the toughness. He'll give you all that. He can give you the perimeter shooting. He can score around the rim. And, I mean, that's not taking anything away from Malik Monk. I don't know if maybe the games missed later in the season might hurt his candidacy. I don't know because Malik Monk did have a really good year. And Naz Reid, I mean, you got to give him credit as well. He's a stretch big somewhat. And with that Minnesota team, with the success that they had, that obviously looks good for him and his candidacy as well. So who do you have winning this one?
Man, I really want Bobby to win it. That would be awesome. He's been arguably outside of Giannis, most consistent guy in Milwaukee. But I feel like they're going to give it to Naz Reid. I was going Malik Monk, but then he missed that time down the stretch, and I think that's going to be just enough for them to flip it to Naz Reid's favor. And regardless, think Naz Reid has a great case. It's well deserved. He's been phenomenal. But yeah, I think the voters are going to go Naz Reid with this one.
That's where I was leaning. Nas Reid to just piggyback real quick. He has like some of the top stats. Like if you look number one reserve stats for centers, like Nas Reid is like first in almost all of them. So I mean, he's obviously playing his part. This is a great Minnesota team, and if they keep playing like how they have been against the Suns, I mean, it just sweetens the deal even better for him. Malik Monk probably would have been my pick as well too, though. But just getting hurt really just kind of it cools your temperature down, especially a award like the 6-man award where it isn't like, man, to be fair, it's hard to really know who's the 6-man if you just don't look at actual schedules and stuff sometime or somebody says it. So, man, you just get forgot about, especially with that type of award. So I do agree with what Brett said, and it probably got shifted over to Nas Reid's way.
This is tough. Like, first of all, I'd love to see Bobby Portis win. Every team wants a guy like Bobby Portis, a guy who's energetic, he's tough, he's a little bit crazy. The fans always fall for the guy that's kind of the enforcer, the guy that's a little crazy. You don't know what he's going to do. So I'd love to see him win it. I do think that Nas Reid is going to win it, and all three of these guys he can make a case for, and they were deserving of it. Nas Reid, like Dylan said, had a fantastic year as far as the stats go. If I had a vote, I might vote for Malik Monk just because of how badly Sacramento fell apart once he got hurt. I get the whole point of you missed games towards the end that can hurt your candidacy, but in this situation with how Sacramento was a great team and then they just completely fell apart. Like they beat Golden State in one of the play-ins, but looked completely overwhelmed against New Orleans. And they had a lot of injuries, but the big injury for Sacramento that really hurt him was Malik Monk. So if I had a vote, I'd go for him, but I think Nas Reid's going to win. But yeah, shout out to Bobby Portis, man. Freaking love that guy. He's just you want a crazy guy like that in your roster.
That's a good point with Malik Monk, though. I mean, if you look at an award like the most improved player, and you take all these guys out of their team, obviously all of them would struggle. But how the Kings struggled with losing Malik Monk was bad.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Clutch player, which this is one that I feel like a lot of people just look at and go,
Curry.
Sure. Right. I feel like just the fact that Steph Curry's in it, they'll probably just go Curry. But Steph Curry.
Any dude who can make a three and then turn around is clutch to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's Curry. I'm not a big fan of this award because they never really defined clutch.
Yeah.
Like, what makes a clutch player? Like, we all have our own definitions, but there's not really a set definition on this award.
I thought when it first came out, it was going to be like, what I thought about it, it was like the player who scored like the most points or like whatever in the final 2 minutes of a game or something like that. Like have a cool little stat for that, like most buzzer beaters, something cool. I don't get how do you become a clutch player? Like what is the qualifications for this award?
Yeah, I don't like this award either. Like it's cool that they're doing it and I like that they're trying new things, but there's stats that show who's best in the clutch. Like it's quantifiable. It's not like defensive player of the year where there's all these different things or rookie of the year or 6-man. Like there are clutch stats. So why don't we just go to Basketball Reference, pull up the clutch stat, sort by who's at the top and give that person the award. Like this is you got to quantify it. However, like Steph's going to win it. And it makes sense that a guy that can do everything that he does wins this award for, the first award for the clutch player should go to him. But just not the biggest fan of this award in general.
Yeah, because I literally tried to look it up to see what the NBA definition was, and it just says best comes through for his teammates in the clutch. So that clarifies nothing to me.
They're just trying to give people awards to make them feel good.
Right.
Right.
We can mention Curry's name again on ESPN.
Trophy. There you go.
Like
the Jerry West Trophy.
You can come through offensively. He's at the most points. Is the most lockdown defender in the clutch.
Yeah.
You can come for your team that way.
You're a clutch defender and a clutch offender.
There's like so many variations you can go, quote unquote, come through for your team in the clutch that we really got to pick one here.
Yeah. Okay, so it does explain a little bit more. So it goes with in 142.9 crunch time minutes, or the period when the score is within 5 with 5 or fewer minutes left, Curry led the league in points scored in that instance.
Okay,
There you go. Give it to Steph.
How
There you
many
go.
voters know that though?
exactly. Like we need a little dossier on why this dude was clutch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're gonna tell me DeMar DeRozan is? What do you mean? Stop with the analytics? Or like, what? How are you clutch? How are you clutch if your team only is a 10th seed? How is DeMar DeRozan clutch? How is your team clutch if you're like? Yeah, but he wasn't ever he wasn't ever put up for a clutch player award either. That wasn't a thing.
Right. I mean, it's I get because comment appreciate you tuning in. You know, analytics. I guess this is an award that was created to definitely use that and everything that goes with it. My only thing is this information isn't readily available to the people who will be voting on this because if that is the case, kind of like you said, Jake, then why do we need three finalists? You just take the stat, whoever's leading it, just award them that clutch player award and call it a day.
They're gonna announce it like randomly anyway, so it's just easier this way too.
Right.
Yeah, just this should just be like, oh, so and so is the scoring champ this year. So and so is the assist champ this year. So and so is the clutch champ this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let people
make a
have
lot of sense.
narratives play into this and make it all wonky with that.
Yeah. All right. I'm not sure. Is that the last one? No. Coach of the year. That's the last one I have. So, Coach of the year, you got Mark Dagnall or Dagnault. I've heard it said like 300 different ways. From the Thunder, you got Chris Finch with the T Wolves, and then Jamal Mosley for the Orlando Magic. So, how do we see Coach of the Year going? Who's going to win it?
You have to give it to OKC. I'm sorry. You have the youngest team in the league. You finished first. Regardless, that's impressive. I mean, this Timberwolves team was floundering on the player ends, have great caliber players. I mean, you look man, I just don't see how it's not OKC. You have the youngest roster. Team people thought like, hey, you guys might be maybe a 7th seed again. You might make the play in. You know, you had a good season last year, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a MVP candidate. One of the best offensive players in basketball on one of the best teams in basketball, at least record wise, and just a 1-year turnaround. Pretty crazy.
Okay. Jake, Brett?
I agree with them. I think it's going to be a Mark Dagnall from OKC. I think Mosley and Finch definitely deserve to be in the top 3 here, but I think Mr. Mark there deserves to take this one home this year.
Yeah, Mark's going to win this one. All 3 of these guys deserve it. I do want to give a huge shout out to Mosley. Like the Orlando Magic, I can't get over just how this team was last year, how they've been historically, just kind of a poorly ran front office for a number of years. They come out, they're the 5th seed. Towards the end of the season, there was rumors they could catch up to the 2 seed. They have this incredibly young team as well. And so I do want to give a lot of shout out to him. I think he's been a big part of it, but Mark's going to win it for Oklahoma City. Like Dylan said, youngest team, the number 1 seed and a MVP candidate. Like that's all you need. And but yeah, shout out to all 3 of these guys. They're all very good coaches, all very deserving.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. We'll call him Marky D is going to win this one. But I do want to, definitely show a lot of love to Mosley because Orlando had a great year. He led that team. They're also a pretty young team. They got a top seed in the East, won the Southeast Division. So can't necessarily make light of what he did. And Chris Finch as well. The Timberwolves are up there all year. Last year they were a playing team, made the leap up to top 3 seed, or 3 seed, I should say. So, yeah, definitely shout out to them. A little upset. My guy Joe Mazzulla wasn't there, but whatever. The hate continues, I know.
I mean, if there's ever an
Man,
award for a
I'm
coach
sorry.
that's gonna block a guy's shot,
I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't. Like, I would not pick
say.
Joe Mazzulla over any of these 3.
Well,
I was
to be
joking
fair,
about
you're the Celtics are just at a point now. Like, let's say if like you fired him and hired any coach, the Celtics
Yeah.
have just been a 1 seed and so good for so long. People are gonna be like, yeah, that's what the Celtics are supposed to do. Look at the roster, like, duh.
Right.
Yep.
I mean,
It's
I
about
understand.
rings. It's about rings.
That's all right. Brad Stevens will take home Executive of the Year for you guys. You're all good.
Yep. No, that's where it actually matters.
Yeah.
Who takes home Executive of the Year?
He should. We'll see. Yeah, so that's the last award that we do have. So we'll go ahead and get into the mock draft.
Let's do
Or do
it.
you want to do, or should we do the? Yeah, we'll do the mock draft now. And then if there's time left, we'll do the little fun trivia. So let me go ahead and get that pulled up. I mean, if you guys have anything else to talk about while I do pull it up, well, actually, I'll explain while I'm pulling it up. So what we're going to do tonight is we are taking the picks in the first round. We've alternated them between ourselves. So, like I'll have the Patriots pick at number 3, then I'll have the Titans pick. So you'll kind of get it as we go along. It's going to be interesting. We'll have trades and everything. Supposedly, we'll see if anybody's willing to trade their picks or anything like that.
Hey,
But,
all I'm saying, Arizona at 4 is open for business.
Would it be frowned upon for Washington to trade the number 2 overall pick to the Saints, just a one-on-one swap? So
Actually, can we just keep the pick and give them a 7th?
I noticed you didn't let me take Atlanta, and that's probably for the best. It'd take every bit of my self-control to be unbiased with that pick.
yeah.
Well, to be funny, when I made the lists, when I was like, okay, well, let me see how I can make it to get all of our teams, and it actually alternated in 4 perfectly to where we could hit both of all of our teams and keep the same order. So I was like, perfect.
It worked out pretty well.
So as I'm pulling it up as well, if you guys want to discuss this one. Here's a question. How many real ballers use analytics? Players know players' numbers can prove or disprove your point of view. I understand these are topics brought on by the NBA. No disrespect, everything like that. Some are very useful. Most are not. So I guess this is mainly a question of how useful are analytics.
I mean,
analytics, they definitely
ahead,
tell the story of a player, but they don't tell the whole story of a player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, if you shoot 17% from 3, you're probably not a great 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're bad? No. Given situations and however, maybe you're just a bad contested 3-point shooter, and that's just how it is. It gives a story, just not the full story.
Yeah, so analytics are useful. Like I said, you need analytics, you need scouting, you need to have a sense for how games are played in real life. But for your question of how many real ballers use it, like players actually, I don't think basketball players look into analytics as much as fans do, as much as a front office or scouts do, because we've seen players request trades, and it's like analytically that doesn't look good. Like with LeBron when he wanted Russell Westbrook, a lot of people went for it. I was like, man, that team doesn't have any 3-point shooting, and they're going to struggle on defense. And what happened? They struggled with 3-point shooting. But the players were looking at it like, hey, Russell Westbrook, he's a dude. He's a baller. I want him on my squad. And so I think that's kind of the disparity that we see between like a front office and the players. The players just look at guys that they can go out and ball with and can be either alphas with or go and attack and be physical with. And the front offices are looking at analytics, trying to find the best value that they can for various parts of their game plan.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think analytics are very useful, but they don't tell everything. Like at the end of the day, you still need to watch the games. You need to watch the eye test. Maybe somebody is shooting 30% from 3, and then you watch and like, oh wow, this is all of his shots are rimming in and out. He's normally a 38% shooter. This just looks like bad luck. But yeah, a lot of the things that analytics tell you, they're great, but you need to actually watch the game to back up your point to the fullest extent. So I think they're useful, but without the eye test, it only goes so far.
Right. I mean, I'll definitely agree with you all on that one. Like analytics can be useful. You just can't run everything through analytics because there's different aspects that analytics can account for that you should be able to kind of see and make decisions that way. So I mean, like comment, like you're saying, obviously there's definitely a feel to the game that analytics cannot replicate. That you can't ignore that when you're sitting there trying to put a team together or create your rotation. Like I said, eye test is key. You definitely have to use eye test. So
Yeah, it almost felt like that was huge with the Clippers Mavs series. The Mavs thought that they could just attack Zubac. Zubac isn't a great defender in the pick and roll in space. You can drop him, but something that you would miss by just looking at the analytics and stats is the Clippers have a lot of great screen navigators and point of attack defenders. So one of the big reasons why they only scored 8 points in the second quarter is they're sitting there trying to get Zubac in the pick and roll, get 3 men in the action, create a 4-on-3 situation. Except once again, the analytics couldn't tell you that. Guess what? Amir, Coffee, Terrence Mann, they're both amazing screen navigators. Luka couldn't shake them, so Zubac didn't even have to come up to get Luka to create that mismatch. So I think that they're just so like little details like that analytics miss that you need the eye test for.
right, absolutely. All right, so I do have the mock draft pulled up. So let me go ahead and share that. And like I said, those in the chat, if you like our picks, let us know. If you think we're crazy, let us know. We're here for it. We're not going to run from it. It's all good. I feel like trying to see which view will be better. Yeah, we'll leave it with that one. All right, so first on the clock, the old Chicago Bears. What will you do at 1?
Whew. Oh man, this is tough.
And just
I
so
don't
people
know.
know, the order is going to be Brett, Jake, Kyle, then me.
Yes.
So now being the Packers
I think
fan you
this
are, who
one's
do
the
the
most
Bears take?
obvious one. You got to go Caleb Williams. That's what the whole build up for the off season's for. If anybody didn't know, so yeah, I'll keep it obvious. Caleb Williams at 1.
All right.
Easy enough. Probably the easiest decision in this
Washington.
draft.
Now,
Okay.
obviously, if you're making the pick open to a trade, any one of us can say, "I want to trade for the pick." Like, we'll just play it that way. So
Sure.
Washington's on the clock. Here we go.
All right. This is tough. Like ever since we decided to go this format today, I've been going back and forth trying to figure out which quarterback to take. And it's interesting because I live in Washington's media market, so I have a lot of fans that are fans for Washington. You look at Jaden Daniels, you look at Drake May. Those are the two guys I'm looking at. Sorry, Michigan fans have not taken. Oh, Anthony, this is tough. I'm not taking JJ McCarthy. Winning attitude, you still need the skill for. The tough thing here is Jaden McDaniels had a fantastic senior season. He had a great talent around him. You worry about his slender size, but he's also 23 years old, which is a little bit of a concern. Drake May, he had his production drop off, but his teammates around him weren't very good. And I think he'll be 22 when the season starts. So there's a little bit of there's both tugs both ways, because you can also say Jaden Daniels rather played tougher competition. You played in the SEC and you won the Heisman. I'm taking Jaden here. I think that's who they're going to go with. I think that's the right pick. I think Washington wants to go for a boom or bust kind of player, guy that could be really electric. And they're going to hope that with the right front office, the right coaching, he can continue the growth that he saw between his junior and senior season and kind of catapult that forward. His mobility is definitely going to play a factor because Washington's offensive line is complete garbage. And Washington should be pretty happy. Jane Daniels is a fun player, and I think that's who they're going to pick.
All right. I mean, Anthony, he made the pick.
Let me know what you
he
think,
banned,
man.
or are you good with him?
I think that's the right pick. I think Jaden Daniels is the perfect pick. That's
Yeah.
what I had on my mock, Jaden Daniels. I mean,
Yeah.
the only problem with Drake May, and this is coming from someone who's a Drake May fan, it was just that production drop off is scary, especially in a weaker ACC. It's not like the ACC was too much stronger. It's not like they were anything like bigger. It was kind of a weaker ACC than what it's been, and kind of a production drop off.
And one thing too, I want to note here, when I was doing a lot of research on these two guys, is it looked like from what I saw, Drake May's accuracy was pretty poor. His footwork was really suspect. It wasn't what you would want to see. And Washington has a really bad offensive line. And I feel like if he's going to be drafted number 2, they're going to want him to be starting, if not week 1, by like week 4. And his footwork is going to get bad with that bad offensive line, and it's just not going to be a good recipe for success there. So that was another factor into it, into picking Jaden.
Jaden Daniels and Austin Eckler, Terry McLaurin. Ugh, it's just nasty. It's nasty. You can create something good with that offense.
Absolutely.
All right, Conman with a C. Before I go, let me tell y'all, Penix is going to be the best quarterback out of the bunch. No one's stepping on a limb. If I was pressed with him, his major issues with previous injuries. Just watch. I like Michael
I
Penix.
mean, to be fair, in my last mock draft, I had a team trade up to get Penix, so I do like Michael Penix a lot. Just injuries, man, suck. You get injured like 3 straight seasons. You're 24, man. You're 24.
Yeah. But I mean, this past year in Washington definitely was good for him, being healthy, putting up the numbers he did. So his draft stock will definitely go up for sure. Because I feel like he was a guy, maybe second, third round, but it's like I don't see a chance that he doesn't get drafted in the first round this year.
That team will trade up. There's too many. Excuse me. There's too many QB needy teams not to trade up for a guy like Penix.
Yep.
No, you spelled Penix right. Yeah, you got it. All right, so I'm on the clock with the Patriots. I mean,
Are you following Kraft's orders? All the rumors going around here that he's kind of running the draft and the GM's just the puppet. Is that what you're going to do here?
I did see that. There's a lot of discussions going on here in the draft room. You know, we got half the room buying into the J.J. McCarthy hype. The other half is loving Drake May. But I'm making the pick. You know, Kraft can fire me tomorrow. It's all good. I've watched some stuff on Drake May. I feel like, you know, this is an instance where he probably doesn't start right away. You have Brissett who can start half the season, 3/4 of the season. You'll be fine. Whatever issues he has, that's what you hired Alex Van Pelt for, to fix that. You hired who am I? There's some other guy that they hired. And I'm just blanking on his name, but you hired a couple of offensive guys, and if Drake May has little issues to fix, that's what he hired you for. I mean, you got to get the quarterback. They have other needs as well, but I think go ahead and take Drake May and at least get that out of the way and worry about the other issues later on in the draft. I mean, trading down is an option, but I was kind of hoping that Jake might have gone with Drake May because I'd have ran right after you and been like Jaden Daniels with no question. But yeah, I'll take Drake May here with the 3rd pick. So that means the Cardinals are now on the clock.
Drake May's a good pick though. Before Dylan goes, like you said it perfectly. He give him another year to kind of sit back, relearn his footwork. You have a good quarterback that can kind of help mentor him and everything. So Drake May's a great fit here.
All right, Cardinals.
Man. So personally, I think the Cardinals should trade the pick. Man, I feel like this is really deep.
Anybody want to trade up for 4?
Hey, Minnesota, you have Minnesota. You have Minnesota.
Wait, who do I have? Let me make sure I remember who I have.
You have so you got Washington,
Giants,
Jets, the Saints, the Bengals, the Eagles.
I agree with you, Comment. I think they will take May. Yeah, Mayo apparently loves them.
I think if any of my teams are going to trade here, it would be the Giants, but I'm not sure if they. Oh, they might just sit there at 6 and not give up cat. The Giants might trade up, but they should just sit at 6. I'll put it that way.
Come on, Vikings.
And the Vikings.
Vikings need a quarterback here.
They got 2 firsts. They got 2 firsts.
You know what? I will trade up as the Vikings because I do think they need to get aggressive here. So
I'll take. I'll just basically take 11 and 23 is how it would work.
Okay. So where am I missing? There we go. trade with Arizona. And 11, 23 for. I feel like it'd probably take a little more than
It
that.
would.
Maybe
What I was thinking, I wrote down a trade, and I was thinking it was going to take like 11, 23, and like probably like a fourth, fifth, something along those lines. But I mean, Minnesota's getting picked 4.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
Arizona's getting 2 firsts, 11 and 23. That's pretty big.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
we're technically just doing the first round, so
And
we'll
we're
just
just
do
introducing the first
11,
round. It's
23.
fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
That means I don't pick till 8 now. All you, Kyle.
Okay.
So Minnesota's on the board. And
Bo Nix.
I was doing this thinking at 11, a couple of guys might be there as quarterback. I kind of think the JJ McCarthy thing's a bit of a smoke and mirror. Oh man, I mean, I made the trade up now, and now I'm just like, what am I going to do with this one?
That's like the Niners a couple years ago, or even the Panthers last year. They didn't know who they were going to take when they made the trade.
Yeah, what I do? Okay, I think Minnesota could use. I mean, you got Jefferson, you got Addison, so you probably want to go wide receiver, tight
Yeah.
end, maybe, but you ain't got nobody to throw to him. So I'd obviously
You're not
have to
trading
go
2 first
quarterback.
for a tight end. Come on.
I know. I'm not just playing the game here, you know.
And kicker.
Bo Nix.
It's not Bo Nix. No. Bo Nix. I heard somebody say Bo Nix ceiling could be Drew Brees. Sure,
Oh,
I'm
please.
not buying into it. I'm not falling for that one.
I'm offended as a Saints fan for that. Just saying.
I will say that though, Minnesota did say something like, "Man, if their quarterback, if it doesn't work the way that they want, they would just sit and hope that Bo Nix would just drop to them."
I mean, if that's like at 23, sure, but
Not at
if they're
11.
thinking like at 11, that'd be nuts. So I'll tell you this: I was thinking like if I sat at 11, maybe Penix falls to 11, and I would take Penix. Well, I just did the trades for some fun. You know what? I'm gonna be crazy here. I'm gonna still take Penix because there's something about JJ McCarthy. I do like him, but kind of like Conman said, I kind of think Penix fits in Minnesota because Penix played well when he had 2 great wide receivers at Washington. You're giving him Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Like, why could he not recreate what he did at Washington?
Okay.
I feel like McCarthy might need a little bit more around him than Penix does. Plus, it's not my team anyway, so if I blow the pick, what do I care? I'll take Penix, be crazy with it. The whole draft hall might gasp in surprise, but I really like Penix, and I'll take him here with 4. All right,
I won't
Chargers
lie. Penix was the last quarterback I had taken out of the group. I did have Nix get selected above him, but I will say Penix is probably outside. Man, Penix is definitely one of those dudes who I don't want to say he's probably the most win now because I do think Caleb Williams is going to do great things with that Bears offense. But I feel like, man, when you look at the quarterbacks of who you could just plug in and assist, and Penix is one of those ones that probably could do it better than any of those other guys. And giving them 2 great receivers is one of those situations where you're just plugging them into a good system with great guys.
And that's kind of my thinking here. I feel like Minnesota, with the weapons they have, would easily replicate kind of what he had at Washington, so he'll probably fit in much better. Anthony asks, you think Penix is better than Nix?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I also think Bo Nix, a lot of people are looking at his Auburn time and are rating him off of that. He was a little better at Oregon, but
Oregon had better coaching.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think Penix is better than Nix. Yes.
I feel like if you're looking at Penix and Nix, you have to look at what they're truly capable. Like, what if you draft these guys early? What's their best potential for what they could be? And for me, Michael Penix his potential is just so much better than what you're going to get from Bo Nix. Like Bo Nix, his ceiling is an average quarterback at best. like maybe the 15th best. Michael Penix has all the tools to potentially be a draft day steal. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but he definitely has the higher upside between the two, and for that reason, I would take Penix over Knicks. Just for
I had
upside.
I had
like
the
I said
Giants
before, I will
trading
say,
back up. I had the Giants trading back up to try to get Penix was my thing. After they made their sixth pick, after they made the sixth pick, they made their pick and traded back in.
yeah, I kind of think if Minnesota wanted him and they hung around for 11, he might be available there. But like you said, they got quarterbacks. Teams like to jump the gun on quarterbacks, so they may have to move up to get him. All right, Chargers are on the clock at 5. Who you got?
You made this so much harder for me because I was so confident that Marvin Harrison would be gone in the first 4 picks, and I was really sold on.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to throw you a loop.
I really was sold on Joe Alt, but
Okay.
now I'm just like, well, Herbert does need somebody to throw the ball to.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah, no, you threw me for a really big loop. I think if I'm the Chargers, I think they're gonna beef up their O line. So I think I'll go Joe Alt.
Oh,
See,
man,
my
Marvin Harrison.
big thing was my big thing for this is like imagine if you're like John Harbaugh and you're just hyping up JJ McCarthy so Arizona will trade the pick and you can still draft Marvin Harrison Jr.
All right, so Joe Alt is the pick. Tackle out of Notre Dame. Okay.
I mean, I think that's a
Giants.
perfect pick. I mean, Alt's been mocked to Tennessee, so if he wasn't going to go there, he was going to go to Tennessee the next pick. I mean, I think every single person in the world has had that mocked forever.
Yep.
Was Alt to Tennessee. Yeah, Chargers just get a steal. But I bet if you're Tennessee though, you're probably not too upset losing on Alt if Marvin Harrison Jr. is still on the board.
I will tell you, I am not upset by that.
Oh yeah,
And Evan kind of nailed it too. This draft is so deep on wide receiver. I feel like I could shore up the line now, and then grab a couple receivers later down the road. And
very much so.
That's
It's a very deep
the
class.
value out of it.
Yep. Okay, so that's
All
me with the Giants.
Mhm.
All right. So, oh man. So I thought for sure Harrison would be gone. And all right, if I was running the Giants compared to what the Giants should do, this is kind of like what. So what I think the Giants, if this draft broke down like this, I think the Giants are going to take McCarthy. I think there's so much hype around him, and the Giants are done with Daniel Jones that they're going to go for that. But you know what, man? You're paying Daniel Jones. You're kind of iffy on some of these other quarterbacks. What has been like the biggest, like the Giants have a whole lot of holes, but what's been the biggest complaint about the Giants? Worst skill position set by far in the National Football League. Marvin Harrison is sitting here at 6 as a generational wide receiver talent. I'm going to be the good GM for the Giants. I'm going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. I know that there's other great wide receivers, but just if you're the Giants and you're already locked into Daniel Jones, you want to give him a chance to succeed. And the best way to do that is by giving the best wide receiver prospect we've seen in ages.
Just to piggyback off that, I mean, even if you are the Giants and Daniel Jones isn't your quarterback, yeah. But if you are the Giants, man, if Daniel Jones is your quarterback, you'll have by the time you figure it out a year or two, you don't want to wait that long. But Harrison Jr. is going to be more of a veteran type of guy, a couple years under his belt. He's going to be more adapted to the NFL. He's going to be used to playing some of these corners that he's used to. He's going to be more of a reliable target rather than throwing rookie together and hoping for the best.
Yep. And look, if Daniel Jones falls apart next year, then just draft a quarterback next year. You'll have a terrible roster, and you'll have a wide receiver that can be great.
Quinn Ewers can throw to Marvin Harrison Jr.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, so the Titans are on the clock. That's me. And I will say, if Alt was here, I was going to go there. You got Will Levis. You're bringing in the new coach from Cincinnati. You know, give him a guy to protect his blind side. He's off the table here. So what I'm going to do is, look, Marvin Harrison just went. I thought, you know, if Marvin Harrison dropped here, I'd probably take him. But I am going to take another wide receiver because give Levis playmakers, and let's play ball. So there's two that I'm looking at: Neighbors and Adunze. I'm looking at both of them. I feel like the one who fits best here. I'm gonna take whatever I did. I'm gonna take Malik Neighbors.
Good pick.
He's a guy who can play in the slot. He can play the outside. I feel like you can use him 3 levels with him. Great with the ball in his hands. Gets great separation downfield, and I feel like Will Levis will love throwing to him. So I'll take Malik Neighbors out of LSU for 10. Oh, those Falcons on the clock at 8.
There we go. Now I can finally make my first pick since I traded my fourth.
Yep.
Man, this is going to be a simple pick for me. I was kind of tossing around different edges a lot. Dallas Turner, Jared Verse, a lot of different one of those guys. Throwing in a couple corners was pretty good. I think Terrion Arnold would be a nice pick here. But the pick I'm going to go with is Dallas Turner,
That's
the
been
edge out of
mocked
Alabama.
been mocked
Yep.
to death pretty
That's
much.
mocked everywhere. Yeah.
Yep. Man, he's super good. He had a great combine. The Falcons just need defensive bodies. He's definitely a dude who can play in a 3-4 and a 4-3. He's played multiple schemes. He's a guy who can get his hand in the dirt, but also be a stand-up outside linebacker for you. And the main thing the Falcons need on this defense is someone who can be healthy and just athlete, competitive. They just need good, solid defensive players. And I don't think there's a better one in this draft, at least edge rusher, which is one of the biggest positions, if not the biggest when it comes to the defense and football. And it doesn't get better than Dallas Turner. Arizona's going to be, they beefed up that whole entire offense. Now it's time to sprinkle a little bit some on the defense. Well, let's see if Kirk can play.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Falcons did a lot of work, so I think that's a great pick for them. The Bears on the clock.
I think this is pretty easy. You got Caleb Williams. Williams already has some weapons going into the year, but now I think it's time to beef up the O-line. So I'm not going to attempt to say his name because I'll butcher the crap out of it, do it a complete disservice. Give me Fashanu.
That's a great pick.
Yeah.
Great pick.
He has been mocked to the Saints forever.
I really hope he falls to the Saints. I was really hoping
Every mock draft
I
under
want
the
him
sun
so bad.
has him.
Yep.
Literally every single mock draft in the world has Olu to the Saints. Nothing has anything different.
All right. So now
All right.
the Jets are on the
to me for
clock.
the Jets.
Tap on
Okay.
that cave. Get Aaron Rodgers to come on out. Meet his new teammate. Who you got?
All right. So I'm going to be kind of a I don't know if you want to call it an idiot or something here. I'm going to play into what the Jets kind of like to do here. They need help at offensive tackle to protect Aaron Rodgers. They need help with some wide receiver help. But the Jets, the Jets just can't help themselves when they see someone like this. They see the pretty toy. They
Yes,
see the guy that
do
they're
it
gonna
because
throw
that's
to.
what I did. Do it because that's what I did.
They're gonna do it. If he's there at 10, the Jets are going to ignore all of their needs. Anything that's going to be the best for their success, they're going to take Brock Bowers at number 10 and just feel like they won the draft and ignore every single one of their needs. It is the Jetsiest thing possible. And I was hoping so badly that he would fall in this mock draft to the Jets so I could have this little bit and just get that out there because it's I hope it happens because it's the most Jets thing you could possibly imagine.
Yep, I literally have that wrote down. Jets, Brock Bowers. It's a Jets thing.
Jets, Jets. It's done. It's perfect.
I mean, at least with
Pass
that
up on a
pick,
Dunze. Pass up on
at least
the
with that pick, Jets fans won't boo the pick. They'll love the pick.
No.
Oh, absolutely. But
Yeah.
it's not the smart pick. There's so many other holes on that team, but it's too pretty. It's too pretty for them to pass up.
All right. So now the Cardinals are on after the trade with the Vikings for 4. So the Cardinals, what are you gonna do here? Oh, that's me.
So, I mean,
No, that's you,
do you
that's
want to
you.
be
No.
okay?
No, that's you.
I don't care. But man, so when I first was going through this idea of making that trade with Minnesota, Terrion Arnold was the dude I was really thinking. Arizona really needs cornerbacks. It was between him and Quinion Mitchell, but now I'm thinking a little bit differently. The reason I had them take a corner over receivers because I thought some good receivers were going to be off the board. And Adunze is still there, which is a little shocking. I have to go Roma Dunze here. If Arizona, if maybe Chicago or another team took him, Terrion Arnold would have been my pick. I think he's perfect. He's perfect for that Arizona system. He's 6'2", 185. He's going to be a great size, good starter. He might not be as big of a day one starter as Quinyon Mitchell is, someone who can play right now, but that's not something Arizona necessarily needs. But Roma Dunze is here, man. Kyler Murray needs weapons. I mean, Marquise Brown's gone. Basically, I mean, I don't even know any receivers on Arizona off the top of my head that I can really think about. That's to their fault. They need more weapons in that room. Roma Dunze is going to be a great leader. He's going to be very vocal, and I feel like he's going to be a good locker room shift. Someone who's going to be just a good football player, a good mentality type of guy, and that's not something Arizona really has had at least a history of having recently. I mean, with D-Hop and different things like that. I think Dunze is just perfect here. I didn't expect him to fall to Arizona at this pick, but I'm got to be happy that he did.
Yeah, Arizona would love that. All right, so
Yeah, that'd be a
the
great pick. Arizona would be
Broncos.
happy with that. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Broncos are up next.
Back
Paying
to
the
back.
ghost of Russell Wilson. Do the Broncos go quarterback here?
They do. So in my mock, I had them actually getting Bo Nix, but I mean, JJ McCarthy's still on the board here. And if there's probably a Sean Payton guy out there, it's probably JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix, one of the two. The dude's already getting paired to Drew Brees, or the dude who's being hyped up out of this world. Both of them sound like Sean Payton guys. Very much so. I would love for Penix to go here. I think Penix would be cool. I just don't think Sean Payton and him will mesh. I think Sean Payton is very much type so the coaches that is going to like, let me run my side of the system. You just do what I say and it's going to go. As Penix is like, I got to do my own thing sometimes. I got to scramble. I got to make some plays. I got to chuck the ball deep. As where you have Bo Nix and McCarthy, who are system guys. And Sean Payton wants to distribute his system. McCarthy's the better of the two on the board, in my opinion, as much as I don't think really McCarthy or Nix is a great competition. I do think McCarthy is better than Nix. So that's where the Broncos will go. And they don't have to mortgage their future like they've been saying they're going to do it.
Okay. So JJ McCarthy off the board to the Broncos at 12, which means those Vegas Raiders are up on the clock at 13.
So I have a pick for the Raiders, but I have to try to think like the Raiders, which means I got to make the most illogical decision here. So give me Jordan Morgan out of no, I'm kidding. By the way, I think the Raiders really need secondary help. So I think they're going to go Terrion Arnold out of Alabama.
It's a good pick.
Yep.
Like that one. All right. Saints at 14.
Man, every time I've done the mock draft, I feel like this is the same thing when I get the Saints. Give me Fuaga out of Oregon State. He's probably going to slide in and be a guard, but the Saints need offensive line help super bad. I was hoping the guy from Penn State would still be here, but at this point, I don't like drafting for need, but we don't need more edge rushers. We don't need more of these other things. We need to shore up that offensive line, and I like what I saw from Fuaga. He's a good player, and he's going to help balance out that line. And it's I'm not as happy because the Penn State guy's gone. I'm going to butcher his name, but with Fuaga, I'm content. I can live with that for sure.
All right. So now I'm on the clock with the Colts, which I guess I would end up with the Colts. So what do I do here? Let's get into the Jim Irsay mode here. I think they're going to go wide receiver. I do. You got Anthony Richardson. Why not give him another weapon to throw to? And I feel like there's a guy who's sitting here who I feel like if he's there at 15, go get him. I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr. I like his ability down the field, everything like that. I think it'll be a great addition for Anthony Richardson to throw to. So I'm going to go Brian Thomas Jr. with the Colts at 15. Seahawks on the
Seattle. Man, this is a tough pick because what Seattle needs the most is offensive line and defensive line. And this is the biggest class for it. I mean, one of the deepest ones that we've seen in a little bit when it comes to both. Maybe not on the defensive tackle section, but at least with edge rushers, there's a lot of good selections. Man, I think I'm going to just stick with who I had here, and I'm going to take Troy I'm probably going to mess up his name too, but the tackle out of Washington. Ryan Grubbs is the new offensive coordinator in Seattle. He was the one in Washington. It just makes perfect sense for an offensive needed team. Losing Damian Lewis, Evan Brown. This team's very much lackluster on the offensive line, so why not get a dude who already knows your offensive coordinator, who's fit from center, guard, tight end, to tackle, who can play on the left side and the right side if you need to. Seattle just needs bodies and ones that can move around. Perfect pick that already knows your coordinator.
So, yeah, Fatanu, as you said?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Off the board. Now we got the Jags up here at number 17. Who are you taking?
Man, Yale just decided to give me all the teams I need secondary and cornerback help, apparently. But I do think this is another team that needs a lot of secondary and cornerback help. And the name I had written down for them is Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo.
Perfect pick.
Yeah, like that one. Watch some video.
I feel like he's going to probably be the steal of the
his
draft.
physical nature.
Yep.
All right.
Oh man.
Bengals at 18.
Bengals. Okay, this is. Oh man, you know what? I feel like Cincinnati does need some issues. Their defense, they've lost some players, and part of my gut's saying they to take Tyler Gutton from Oklahoma to shore up that offensive line. You got to protect Joe Burrow. Jared Verse at Florida State, he has a lot of potential. He has a lot of big splash potential that it could go, and you have to. Oh man, this is tough. Yeah, give me Verse. Give me Verse out of Florida State. I think he's going to be great. They do have a pretty good defensive tackle already in there that can get pressure. Their whole Cincinnati's trying to win. They're going to try and get everything they can. You got to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes. That's kind of who they're building their team around. And I just feel like that's going to give them a better chance in an offensive lineman.
All right, so now I got the Rams at 19. That is my team. Let's see, where do we go with this one? Because there's a couple of names that I do like. To be honest with you, I don't know if I thought Chopper Robinson was going to be here at 19. I also do like Byron Murphy, because I think I did a couple of mock drafts and put Murphy there. I could also go corner with old Kool-Aid. I do like him as well. You know what? I'll take the corner here. I'll go with Kool-Aid. Great first name, I guess. You know,
It's out of Game Hill for real.
Yeah, but I like his ability on the outside, 1-on-1. I mean, it's an Alabama corner. Couldn't really go wrong with either one of them between Arnold and himself. But I'll shore up the back end with the Rams, a team that has a lot of hope of going deep into the playoffs this year. So I'll take Kool-Aid McKinstry at 19 for the Rams. Steelers on the clock at 20.
Man, this is going to be an easy pick. It's a boring pick, but another offensive line. Graham Barton out of Duke. Man, the Steelers love this dude. He's a guy who's played, and again, a lot of these offensive tackles and guards are very, moved around a lot, which is, very good. There's a couple other guys like Jackson Powers Johnson, so many other guys who have just moved around on this offensive line. But Ben Powers is really good. He's someone the Steelers like. I mean, they had dinner with him. They met with him. The offensive coordinator has met with him and his family already. It just seems like kind of as long as nobody else comes up and takes this dude, that's the guy. Really good out of Duke. Definitely played a lot more at guard, if I'm not mistaken, on the right side than he did anything else. But definitely played towards the second half of his season of his career. He ended up moving to tackle. Dude who can move around a lot. Steelers just need the offensive line help. Obviously, like the dude, he's not taken off the board. Perfect.
Anthony thought Kool-Aid was going to go to the Eagles.
Yeah, that's where I had him mocked to as well.
Well, the Rams decided to take him a little early. All right, Dolphins at 21.
Oh man. First off, Dylan, we can't be friends. You stole my Graham Barton pick for a later team.
Steelers love him, man. That's all I could see is just them meeting with Graham Barton, and I'm like, well, okay.
This was tough. This really was. I think they'll go edge. I'm trying to pronounce his name, but
Is it Latu?
yes, it is Latu. I was trying to pronounce his first name, but I think they'll go Latu edge. UCLA.
Okay.
I'm so glad you guys can pick up on me not being able to pronounce these names. I appreciate that, by the way.
It's all good. All good. All right. Eagles at 22.
All right, so that's me. So I need the best corner or linebacker because that's what Philly needs help with. That's out of Georgia. So who's that going to be? Because they have to pick a first round guy out of Georgia. I feel like I'm being facetious there.
Kamari Lassiter is out of Georgia.
Yep.
He's a
That feels
end.
like might be a bit of a stretch for a first round draft pick.
Amarius Mims. That's offensive lineman out of Georgia.
Yeah. You know what? Let's take Mims. I'm gonna be. I don't know if it's troll is the right term or not, but they love those Georgia guys, and it feels like Philadelphia is just a team that wants to ignore the fact that they have secondary issues. They have issues with their linebackers, and they just want to beef up with Georgia players. So we'll take Mims out of Georgia, keep the tradition going, and go from there.
One thing I will say about Mims, though, is he did not allow a pressure or a sack in 400 games. Well, 400 snaps or whatever the thing was. However they worded it. That was impressive.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. All right. Cardinals back on the clock at 23. So I guess I would take this one because technically this would be the Vikings one at 23. So I guess I can go ahead and do this one. So who the Cardinals have so far? Well, who did you take with the Cardinals' first pick, Dylan?
I took Roma Dunze.
I could literally look here. Yeah, you just took a Dunze. Okay. So we got the Cardinals here. They do have a need at tackle. Got a couple on here in terms of Murphy and Newton. I think I had Newton kind of around this area or a little bit later. I do like Newton. But Murphy falling, 13th best player. I did like him a little earlier. Who do I choose between two of them? I'll go Murphy. I'll take Byron Murphy out of Texas.
I would say Murphy's the better player. He was who I would have picked. When I did the trades initially, I had either Arizona getting Brian Thomas because I thought he might have dropped, or getting Newton as well. But with Murphy being there, just better player.
You gotta take him. All right, the Cowboys, 24.
That's me. So before I had Amarius Mims here, but that's in Eagles fashion. They would take the guy that the Cowboys wanted. So to move on from that, definitely I do think it's going to be an offensive line. Losing Tyron Smith is big. That was just your bolster. That was your focal point on your offensive line. Man, I'm going to take the dude who I had mocked later, but it just makes more sense now. And I had him mocked. Okay, it wasn't one of my picks. Never mind. I can do it then. Jordan Morgan. Feel like that's just going to be a good pick for him. I mean, he's someone who's going to be predicted to go later out of Arizona. Really good. Man, you just need to beef up that offensive line. I mean, Dak Prescott isn't going to get any younger. Especially going to be on a contract year. You want to look like you can protect him, make him feel good. You still have CeeDee Lamb, and that rushing game is going to be a little bit weaker. We're not sure what we're going to see out of Tony Pollard or anything like that. So definitely just beefing up that offensive line, making up for what you lost, just seems like the smarter way to go. Only other thing I could see is maybe like them trying to go after corner, even though they had a great secondary, still fairly older. Just getting another guy in the building to help out.
Green Bay.
So looking at Gunkist and his recent draft history, he really likes to double down, so you can sometimes see what he's going to do based on his free agent signings. Great example of this, when he signed Preston and Zadarius Smith, he drafted Rashawn Gary. He signed Jaron Reed and Devondre Campbell, and then proceeded to draft Devontae Wyatt and Quay Walker. I think this continues here, and I think that we drafted, we signed McKinley. I think we draft Cooper DeJean. So I'm going to go.
Oh, that's who I had too. I was hoping you'd go that way. I mean, didn't your guys' GM talk about how he just liked how versatile he was as a player? He was just
Yeah,
raving about him,
The
basically.
Packers love versatility. That's why I had this is where I had Graham going, because they just love versatility. So I figure it's either Graham or Dijon here.
All right. The Bucks.
Okay, for Tampa Bay, so that's on to me. Tampa Bay really overperformed, and I think they're trying to still to win now in the NFC South. They're not the favorites anymore with Atlanta, and I think they really want to put some pressure on quarterbacks in that division. And I think with Chop still being there and being ranked 12th in this little mock draft, I think it makes all sense in the world. Get a good
Perfect.
strong pass rusher, and they can just continue to wreak havoc with that really good defense. So yeah, give me Chop Robinson for Tampa Bay. That's a steal for
Man,
them.
back-to-back picks of what I had too. I had Chop Robinson, Tampa Bay.
All right. I have the Cardinals at 27. So, I mean, I feel like Cardinals are taking care of wide receiver, taking care of the tackle. They need secondary help. So, I think I'm going to go. Oh, you about to say something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this is where I had Arizona trading their pick to New York, and this is where I had Penix going.
Okay. I mean, that would be definitely interesting. I
can see
mean,
that
I don't know.
happening.
I don't know. I don't know. If Penix lasts till 27.
I don't. It's just hard to tell because like it gives this kind of this quarterback like McCarthy, Penix, and Nix kind of gives me vibes of what we thought of like Lewis, Levis, not Levis, no Lewis, Willis. There we go. Pickett, all of them. We thought all these guys were going to be like top of the line type of guys,
Yeah.
earlier first rounds, and then Pickett was the only dude selected.
Sure, that could happen. But I guess if we're going to stay with the Cardinals, although a third first round pick, maybe they would trade this one. So I'll say that. Anybody want to trade for 27? They're a guy you want that you afraid might go.
I mean, man, can we just have the Giants? Who'd the Giants take? They took Marvin Harrison,
They
right?
took Marvin Harrison. Yeah. If I'm
Man,
the
Bo
Giants,
Nix
yeah,
is
let's
still
make a
here.
deal. Let's make a deal.
Bo Nix is still here.
It's a very Giants move. Let's make a deal. Like
All right.
what would it take? Like a third this year and next year's first, something like that, maybe. Second this
And
year.
you can have Sterling Shepard just cause.
There we go.
So Giants.
They'll try to sneak in there.
Cardinals.
They'll try to sneakily give you Darren Waller in this trade.
There we go. Yeah, so let's do the Giants first year next and 47. See if that works.
I mean, for this one, yeah, I think it just kind of does it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. There we go.
Bo Nix. Put the pressure on, give him a chance to sit for a year because, Bo Nix ain't getting any younger. You can just sit there, age gracefully, and if Daniel Jones gets hurt or falls apart, then you have your quarterback you can go and have a good receiver to throw to.
All right. The Buffalo Bills at 28.
This is going to be easy. There is only one thing that Buffalo needs to draft, and it is a receiver. At least with this first pick. I mean, you might not have the cream of the crop, might not have the greatest choice. You're not getting the big three of Adunze, Harrison, or Neighbors, but you're going to get a guy like Adonai Mitchell is who I'm going to pick. 6'4", big frame, a good route runner, which is like what this Buffalo offense is really based off good route running, timing, getting to your spots on time. And Adonai Mitchell does that really well with a really great frame and good speed to go with it. I feel like, man, this is just a match made in heaven for Josh Allen. If I think of a great receiver that isn't like Stephon Diggs, because I think Diggs was really one of Allen's bet. Like if I could create a perfect combo, it'd probably been Allen and Diggs. I think Mitchell is one of those good prospects for him. I feel like you can throw him right in there. He's do great things.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah. Lions at 29.
Adonai Mitchell is actually my backup pick in case my first pick for the Lions went. I got Jazon Newton. Newton, put him next to DJ Reader on a line also with Aiden Hutchinson, and I think that the Lions are just going to be able to pressure teams into victories almost.
I heard the Lions really do like that edge out of Missouri, Darius Robinson. I heard they like him a lot too, but that's more of a Lions thing, wanting to get dudes who are just aggressive and will bite your kneecaps off.
All right, Ravens at 30.
So that's me. What did I have written down here? I do want to have them get some help on the offensive line. Like they got some good. There's no good receivers really worth taking here. You can get them in later rounds in the draft. I like J.C. Latham out of Alabama. Alabama
Oh.
boys just feel like for the most part are good offensive tackles. They can play really well. They're real physical. They're real tough. They come ready to play, and I think that's a happy pick for them. If you're picking 30th and you have a really good offensive lineman you get in this draft, you're pretty happy.
All right. So I have the Niners here at 31. I feel like got to go tackle here. So it's whether or not I go Guyton or Sumatea. I think I pronounced that right. I'm not gonna swear by that. I think when I did this, if Sumatea was there, because I kind of assumed Guyton might have been gone by now, I'd have gone with Kingsley. But the fact that Guyton is sitting there, both of them. No, I'll go with Guyton. I'll take Guyton out of Oklahoma.
I think that's perfect. I mean, dude, just to piggyback, I had Kingsley or Nate Wiggins going there if it wasn't. I mean, Guyton fell, so.
Yeah. Yep.
So I get to close it out.
Final pick, the Chiefs. Yes, close it out.
Man, Super Bowl champs. Make it simple. I mean, kind of had an interesting offseason. I mean, their biggest struggle even before they won the Super Bowl is that maybe a lack of weapons. But Kansas City does what Kansas City does, and they can make it work with whatever. With that being said, why not still give them something that they can work with? We don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice in all of his situations as well either. Don't know if there's going to be a suspension, if he's going to even play. There's a bunch of different guys I would love to put here, but I'm just going to do what the pick that everyone wants. Xavier Worthy. Man, if you want a Chiefs type of guy, Xavier Worthy's that mold. What I think they'd probably do, probably like Xavier Legette or Lad McConkey. Those two type of guys might possibly be better. But Xavier Worthy, 4.21, you broke that speed record. Man, he can play on the outside. He can play in the slot. Kansas City loves making mismatches and different things like that. His only big thing is probably can't catch in the middle that well, which is kind of a little bit something Tyreek Hill had a little on him. Being able to be compact, taking those hits through the middle. That's not something I think Worthy's going to have a great time doing, especially only being like 165. I think it's what they said. But he's a great deep ball catcher, has great control. Someone Kansas City can use very nicely. We know how Andy Reid works. We know how Patrick Mahomes works. Just great compliment for the Super Bowl champs. Reigning champs, I should say.
Yeah. I will say, this plays out this way. Patriots at 34, with Kingsley still there, McConkey still there. I'm not mad at that.
Drake
May go
Drake
third.
May's got help.
I would like that. But yeah, so that's our first round mock draft. I'll probably save this to see how it matches up with the first round come Thursday. I mean, ours was probably a little bit crazier than what will actually happen, but who knows?
If we had to be honest, probably not. It is probably not crazier than what's going to happen.
There's going to be a lot of trades.
Because the Jets are going to Jets, the Raiders are going to Raiders. Like, we know how these teams work. We say the Raiders are going to do what they do at 13. We say they're going to get Terrion Arnold, but really they're going to get like the 13th best cornerback who we thought was probably going to be in the second round. And that dude's going to get cut next season.
It's a new day with Antonio Pierce, running the show there as head coach. So maybe they actually start making sensible picks.
Maybe.
True.
Who knows?
But the thing is every time we think teams are going to do that, it's just the history of teams. It's just the aura. It's like, man, you could
can't help themselves.
You could put Andy Reid in Jacksonville, and if Jacksonville has a bad aura, that's just what it is.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit over the 2-hour mark, so we'll save the trivia stuff for next week. We had fun with the mock draft, so that counts for the fun trivia this week. But yeah, so appreciate everybody who tuned in. Definitely love the interaction with you all. As Anthony put it, Jake did not get banned for his Jaden Daniels pick, so I guess you're allowed to make picks again next year.
There we go. The pressure was on. I could feel it. I could feel the pressure.
Absolutely.
You almost put J.J. McCarthy on the ballot, though.
But yeah, the draft is Thursday, which here on Integrity Sports Network, we will have the draft party, watch party that we had last year, which was a lot of fun. And if the first round is as crazy as we think it's going to be, it'll be even more fun this year. So make sure you all tune in for that. I'm not sure what time we're going to start yet because obviously we'll start a little bit before the draft, but just have your notifications on. That way you'll know when we go live. But yeah, I mean, Jake, Dylan, Brett, anything you guys want to add before we get out of here?
I mean, outside of we'll know who all of our teams drafted by this time next week. I mean, should we be getting closer to will some second round matchups be made by then, or will we still be working out through the firsts? I mean, the game 6s, 7s probably would be at this point next week.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we'll be like game 6, maybe a couple of late game 5s, but we'll still be in the first round next week.
So any sweeps that happen, we'll know. Anything like that. If your team sucks, we'll talk about you next week.
Okay, both home teams are up right now. We'll see if that holds.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Good to see that
Crazy trend. All right. Anything else?
No. Fun show. Mock drafts are the best. I'm sad it's over. I'm sad that season's over.
Yeah. Hey, we could mock the NBA. No, I mean, I don't. That's way down the line. We'll do a UFL draft.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll do something. We'll figure out some other fun stuff to do. But yeah, make sure you guys are here again next Tuesday. As Dylan said, we'll recap what happened with the NBA. We'll look at the draft, what picks are made, what surprises, everything like that. So next week, 7 o'clock, be here for another episode of On the Ball podcast. So for myself, Jake, Dylan, and Brett, we're going to get up out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we will see you next week. We're out of here.